Hello, my garden friends. It's Jersey Shore Lisa with MyNJGarden.com. And it's early spring, late March here in New Jersey. And I wanted to invite you to be with me while I do this next project for my garden. In light of what's happening in the world right now with the coronavirus and everybody social distancing and trying to protect ourselves and others in the community, I'm spending a lot of my energy trying to grow as much food on my property as I can. I've always loved to grow food, but even more so this year than in the past. On March 1st, I took some cuttings based on an article that I saw, and I put them in water. And a month later, you can see that we're pretty successful. We've gotten some roots happening with these cuttings, and they're doing really well. So these cuttings are from an elderberry bush in my yard, and because I know that willow, you can make some natural rooting hormone, has a lot of natural rooting hormone in it. So you can steep willow twigs and make a natural rooting hormone to use on your own cuttings and plants. Because I know that that's true, along with the elderberry cuttings that I took, I tucked in a few branches from a pussy willow bush that I have in my yard as well, and maybe that's what helped do the trick. I've never done this before. It's the first time that I've rooted cuttings in this way, and now I intend to pot them up because there seem to be quite a few roots in there, and I'd like to get them into soil as soon as possible. So because these roots were started in water and not started in soil, I've heard that these roots can be very delicate, so we have to work with them very gently. I do have this organic natural potting mix. It's Miracle Grow, Nature's Care, so I do intend to use this, but in order to keep that medium nice and light and fluffy, I'm going to mix it with coconut coir that I got to start my seeds this year. I've already done all the seed starting that I'm going to do for my spring vegetables, so I still have quite a lot of coconut coir left in this container, and I'm going to mix in this bag of potting mix with it to keep the medium nice and light and fluffy so that new roots have no trouble working their way through this medium once it's wet. So I'm just going to stir this up and incorporate it all together, getting my hands dirty. And now I'm going to lift these cuttings very carefully out of the water and separate them and spread them out. I'm going to put the willow ones back in there because I'm going to reuse those for the next batch of cuttings that I put in water, because I think this turned out really well and I want to keep it up, keep it going. And yes, each one of these willow branches has roots on it. Those were actually the most successful. So I do have some successful elderberries with roots on them as well. Especially this one, look at that, tons of roots on that baby. So this is how I'm gonna start. I'm gonna take a pot and I'm going to put some medium in the bottom of it. And then I'm just going to put the cutting into the pot gently and hold it in place. And then I'm going to fill in all around it with more of the medium. It's not really complicated, just kind of putting it in here, getting it, tucking it in, tamping it down a little bit so it doesn't move around too much. And there we have it. So I'm gonna do that with these 3 other cuttings that I have that have roots. The rest, I'll put them back in with the willow and we'll see how they do. They are leafing out, so they're definitely happy in there. This one has just a little bit of roots coming out. You can see just a few. So I'm gonna give it a little more time in with the willow before I put them in soil. But the ones that have a good root system starting, like this one has a nice bit of roots coming down, I think they're ready. And I'm gonna put them in the soil, and I'll put them out in my greenhouse and make sure that they're nice and moist and it's nice and humid in there in the early spring. And if it does dip below freezing, I'm gonna bring these guys in and put them in my garage because I wanna take good care of them and I don't wanna shock them. So that's what I'm working on, and I'm gonna make a whole lot more plants and a whole lot more food. So what I've also done today, because I knew that I was gonna be taking some of these cuttings out of the water, I saw that I have a currant bush in the yard and some branches were crisscrossing each other. So I pruned off the lengths that were crisscrossing, and I figured that I would start some of these to be cuttings. So you want to think about the top of the branch. This is like the growing tip, and this was the bottom that was up against the base of the plant. And you want to keep that configuration when you put them in the water. You don't want to put them in the water upside down. You want the roots to happen on what would have been the bottom of the branch. So you want to take like 7 or 8 inches, and you just want to cut with your pruners on an angle right below a leaf node. So you could see like there, a bunch of leaves would be coming out from there, and I'm gonna take my pruners and just cut that on an angle. Can you see that? So, and then that is gonna go right into the water. And then I'll do that again here. I'm gonna cut on an angle. And then I'm gonna put that right into the water. So then I'll have some currants, red currants happening too. And I have another branch, and I'll just do that again. That one is less than 8 inches, but that's okay. And there we have it. So now we'll have elderberries and currants. If you have access to any fruit-bearing trees or shrubs, or if you want to duplicate any of the shrubs or trees that are in your yard, this is a nice way to do it. There are other ways to propagate cuttings. You can do it in soil, and there are methods out there. You can search for those on YouTube. I have taken some cuttings and tucked them right into my cold frame. At the same time, March 1st that I did this in the water, I tucked some right into the cold frame, and those are leafing out now, but I have no idea how the roots are doing because obviously they're under the soil. So I'm gonna leave them alone in the cold frame, and I intend to leave them there until the fall, and we'll see how they go. If they make it to the fall and they look like they're doing well, I may pot them up then, or I may just leave them in the cold frame and then transplant them somewhere in the yard or in another garden next spring. But because they are in soil and I don't know how the roots are doing, I'm not gonna mess with them. I'm gonna let them be and let them develop as much as they can without being disturbed. So that's how I'm propagating cuttings this spring, 2020. The garden gives me joy and it gives me hope. And the things that are happening out here are unconcerned with whatever is happening in our own society as far as this virus being spread around. So it really shows me that life will go on, and we're all going to get through this, and we can take pleasure in the things that are safe and sustain us and can bring us resilience, which is growing our own food. So good luck to you all, and be safe and be well, and I'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.